This is part 4 of our family betrayal series, but this story is completely different from Sarah's wedding night or Emily's prom night. Tonight, we're uncovering the heartbreaking experience of Olivia, a 20-year-old who thought a family getaway would be a peaceful escape, until the person she trusted most, her own uncle, shattered that trust in a single night. What happened in the darkness outside that mountain cabin would change Olivia's understanding of family forever, and force her to question whether the people we love most can sometimes be the most dangerous. Before we continue deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos, because what you're about to hear will remind you why we must stay alert, even with those closest to us. Olivia Marie Richardson was everything you'd expect from a college sophomore at the University of Colorado, bright, ambitious, and deeply connected to her extended family. At 20 years old, she was majoring in environmental science with dreams of working for the National Park Service someday. Her professors loved her enthusiasm, her friends appreciated her genuine kindness, and her family, well, her family saw her as the golden child who could do no wrong. The Richardson family had always been close-knit, the kind of family that actually looked forward to reunions and holiday gatherings. Olivia's parents, Mark and Jennifer, had worked hard to maintain these connections, organizing annual trips that brought together aunts, uncles, cousins, and grandparents from across Colorado and neighboring states. But if you asked Olivia who made these gatherings truly special, she would tell you without hesitation that it was her Uncle Ryan. Ryan Michael Richardson was Mark's younger brother, and at 38, he was the family member who brought energy and adventure to every gathering. While other adults sat around talking about work and mortgages, Uncle Ryan was the one organizing hiking expeditions, setting up elaborate games of capture the flag, and teaching the younger cousins how to build the perfect campfire. He was single, successful in his career as the outdoor gear company regional manager, and seemed to have endless time and resources to dedicate to creating magical family memories. Uncle Ryan was like the cool older brother I never had, Olivia would later remember. He remembered everything about everyone, my college classes, my career goals, even the names of my friends. When I was struggling with organic chemistry my freshman year, he was the one who called me every week to check on my progress and encourage me to keep going. The bond between Olivia and Uncle Ryan had been building since she was a little girl, but it had deepened significantly during her college years as he positioned himself as her mentor and biggest supporter. In October of 2022, Uncle Ryan proposed what he called the ultimate Richardson family adventure, a long weekend at a luxury mountain cabin in the Rocky Mountains, about 2 hours west of Denver. He had found the perfect rental through a high-end vacation company, a sprawling log cabin that could sleep 12 people comfortably and offered spectacular views of the surrounding peaks. "It'll be our chance to see the fall colors at their peak," Ryan told the family during a planning call. "We can go hiking during the day, have bonfires at night, and just reconnect as a family before winter sets in." The enthusiasm for Ryan's mountain cabin idea was immediate and overwhelming. Olivia's grandparents were excited about spending time with all their children and grandchildren in such a beautiful setting. Her parents appreciated Ryan's generosity in organizing and partially funding the trip. Her younger cousins, aged 16 and 14, were thrilled about the adventure activities Ryan was already planning. Even her aunt and uncle, who were usually too busy with work to attend family events, cleared their schedules for what Ryan was calling the Richardson family retreat of a lifetime. For Olivia, the timing couldn't have been better. She had been stressed about midterm exams and was looking forward to a few days away from campus to recharge and spend quality time with the family members she loved most. The cabin had Wi-Fi, so she could keep up with any urgent assignments, but for the most part, she planned to disconnect from the academic pressures of college life and simply enjoy being surrounded by people who cared about her. Uncle Ryan's attention to detail in planning the trip was impressive and touching. He created a shared document with a complete itinerary, including suggested hiking trails for different skill levels, meal planning that accommodated everyone's dietary restrictions, and even a list of board games and card games he was bringing to ensure they had plenty of indoor activities if the weather didn't cooperate. "He thought of everything," Jennifer told her daughter. "You're so lucky to have an uncle who cares this much about creating special memories for our family." The Richardson family convoy arrived at the Whispering Pines Mountain Retreat on a crisp Friday afternoon in mid-October, with the aspen trees displaying their brilliant gold foliage against the backdrop of snow-capped peaks. The cabin was even more spectacular than the online photos had suggested. A massive log structure with floor-to-ceiling windows, a wraparound deck, and enough space for the entire extended family to spread out comfortably. Uncle Ryan had arrived early to stock the refrigerator, set up the common areas, and ensure everything was perfect for the family's arrival. As cars pulled up the winding gravel driveway, he was there to greet everyone with bear hugs and that infectious enthusiasm that made every Richardson gathering feel like a celebration. "Welcome to paradise," he announced, spreading his arms wide to encompass the stunning mountain vista. "We've got 3 days of perfect weather forecast, incredible hiking trails right out our back door, and enough food to feed an army." The first evening unfolded exactly as everyone had hoped it would. Uncle Ryan led a moderate hike to a nearby overlook where the family could watch the sunset paint the mountains in shades of pink and orange. They returned to the cabin as darkness fell, gathering around a roaring fire pit on the back deck, while Ryan regaled them with stories from his recent camping trips and adventure travels. Olivia felt herself relaxing for the first time in weeks, surrounded by laughter and love, and the crisp mountain air that made everything feel clean and possible. Saturday brought the kind of perfect autumn day that makes people fall in love with Colorado. Cloudless blue skies, comfortable temperatures, and visibility that seemed to stretch forever across the mountain landscape. Uncle Ryan had planned a more ambitious hike for those who were up for the challenge, a 6-mile loop trail that would take them to an alpine lake hidden in a glacial cirque. Olivia eagerly joined the hiking group, along with her parents, her teenage cousins, and Uncle Ryan leading the way with his extensive knowledge of the local terrain. The hike was everything Uncle Ryan had promised and more. The trail wound through groves of golden aspen trees, across crystal-clear mountain streams, and finally up a steep switchbacking climb to the lake itself, a perfect mirror of dark water reflecting the surrounding peaks. They spent an hour at the lake, eating the gourmet sandwiches Uncle Ryan had prepared, taking photos, and simply marveling at the natural beauty that surrounded them. "This is why I love Colorado," Olivia told her uncle as they sat on a granite boulder overlooking the water. "Thank you for making this happen. I didn't realize how much I needed this until right now." Uncle Ryan's response to Olivia's gratitude was warm, but carried an undertone that she didn't quite recognize at the time. "You deserve all the best things in life, Olivia," he said, his hand resting on her shoulder in what seemed like an avuncular gesture. "You're such a special young woman, and I want to make sure you never forget that. Sometimes I think you don't realize just how amazing you are." The comment struck Olivia as slightly intense, but not inappropriate. Uncle Ryan had always been generous with praise and encouragement. Saturday evening brought the first hint that the perfect weather might not hold. Clouds began building over the western peaks as the family gathered for another campfire, and Uncle Ryan consulted his weather app with growing concern. "Looks like we might get some rain overnight," he announced. "Nothing too serious, but we might want to move tomorrow's activities indoors if it keeps up." The family wasn't particularly worried. The cabin had been chosen specifically because it offered plenty of space and entertainment options for indoor activities. As Saturday night progressed, the weather began to deteriorate more rapidly than anyone had expected. What started as light rain evolved into a steady downpour, and by 10 o'clock, the family had moved inside and was settled in the cabin's great room for what Uncle Ryan dubbed Richardson Family Game Night. Olivia found herself enjoying this development as much as the outdoor activities. There was something cozy and intimate about being gathered together while the storm raged outside, creating their own bubble of warmth and laughter in the wilderness. If you're still here, type "I'm still here" in the comments. Because what happens during that short walk to the generator will leave you speechless. The storm that had begun as a gentle rain on Saturday night had evolved into something much more intense by Sunday evening. What the weather forecast had predicted as a brief shower had turned into a full-scale mountain thunderstorm, with lightning illuminating the cabin's windows and thunder echoing off the surrounding peaks. The Richardson family had spent Sunday indoors as planned, but the atmosphere remained festive and cozy as they worked through Uncle Ryan's carefully curated collection of board games and card games. As evening approached, the storm's intensity seemed to increase rather than diminish. Around 8 o'clock, just as the family was settling in for another night of indoor entertainment, the lights in the cabin began to flicker ominously. Uncle Ryan, ever the prepared outdoor enthusiast, immediately took charge of the situation. "Probably just the storm affecting the power lines," he announced calmly. "Nothing to worry about. I spotted a backup generator when we arrived. We'll have everything back to normal in no time." The power failed completely just after 8:30, plunging the cabin into darkness except for the occasional flash of lightning outside. While other family members fumbled for flashlights and phone lights, Uncle Ryan was already moving with purpose toward the utility closet where he had seen the generator control panel. "Olivia," he called out, "you're the most outdoorsy of the younger generation. Want to help me get this generator running? It'll just take a few minutes, and then we can get back to our game night." Olivia was flattered by Uncle Ryan's confidence in her outdoor skills and eager to help solve the family's problem. She grabbed a raincoat from the mudroom and followed her uncle out into the storm, not thinking twice about the fact that they were leaving the warmth and safety of the cabin to venture into the dark, wet wilderness. Uncle Ryan led the way with a powerful LED flashlight, guiding them along a narrow path that wound around the back of the cabin toward a small outbuilding where the generator was housed. The walk to the generator shed should have taken less than 5 minutes, but Uncle Ryan seemed to be taking a circuitous route through the trees. "I want to check something first," he explained when Olivia questioned their path. "I thought I heard a branch fall earlier. We should make sure there's no damage to the power lines before we try to restart the system." His explanation sounded reasonable, and Olivia trusted her uncle's judgment completely. As they walked deeper into the woods behind the cabin, Uncle Ryan began what seemed like a normal conversation about Olivia's college experience. He asked about her classes, her social life, her plans for the future. But gradually, his questions became more personal, asking about her relationships with boys at school, whether she had a serious boyfriend, how she was handling the pressures of adult life. "You're growing up so fast," he said, his voice taking on a tone that made Olivia slightly uncomfortable. "Sometimes I can hardly believe you're the same little girl I used to give piggyback rides to." They had reached a small clearing about 100 yards behind the cabin, far enough from the building that the lights from the family's flashlights and phones were no longer visible. Uncle Ryan stopped walking and turned to face Olivia, his flashlight beam creating a small circle of light in the surrounding darkness. "I've been wanting to talk to you alone," he said, his voice different from the cheerful, avuncular tone she had known all her life. "There are things I need to tell you about how I feel, about how special you are to me." What happened next in that dark clearing would shatter Olivia's understanding of family, trust, and safety in ways that would take years to heal. The man who had been her mentor, her adventure guide, her biggest supporter, became her attacker. In the darkness and isolation of the mountain storm, with her family safely inside the cabin and unaware of where she and Uncle Ryan had gone, he violated the sacred trust of family in the most devastating way possible. The details of what happened are too painful and too private to share in their entirety, but the impact was immediate and life-changing. Uncle Ryan used the storm, the darkness, and Olivia's complete trust in him to create a situation where she was vulnerable and unable to seek help. He had planned this moment carefully, using the generator malfunction as an excuse to isolate her from the rest of the family. When it was over, Uncle Ryan straightened his raincoat and looked down at Olivia, with a mixture of satisfaction and ownership that made her feel sick. "This is our special secret," he said, his voice returning to its familiar, caring tone, as if nothing had happened. "Our family is so close, so loving. You wouldn't want to destroy that by telling anyone about this, would you? You know how much everyone depends on me, how much these family gatherings mean to your grandparents, your parents, your cousins. You're a smart girl, Olivia. You understand what would happen if you tried to share this with anyone." The walk back to the cabin felt like an eternity. Olivia followed Uncle Ryan along the dark path in stunned silence, her mind struggling to process what had just happened to her. The storm continued to rage around them, but she barely noticed the rain soaking through her jacket or the lightning illuminating their way. All she could think about was the fact that the person she had trusted most in the world had just violated her in the most horrible way, and was now acting as if nothing had happened. "The generator must have kicked in automatically," Uncle Ryan said casually as they approached the cabin and saw light spilling from the windows. "These modern backup systems are pretty sophisticated. We'll tell everyone that we checked it out and everything looks good." His ability to shift immediately back into the role of the helpful, competent uncle was almost more disturbing to Olivia than the assault itself. How could he sound so normal, so caring, after what he had just done to her? As they entered the cabin through the mudroom, removing their wet raincoats and boots, the warmth and light felt surreal to Olivia. Her family was gathered in the great room exactly as they had left them, playing cards by lamplight and laughing about something her youngest cousin had said. They looked up with relief and gratitude as Uncle Ryan and Olivia appeared in the doorway. "Thank goodness you got the power back on," Jennifer called out to her brother-in-law. "We were just starting to worry about you two out there in this storm." Uncle Ryan's response was smooth and confident, the same charming personality that had made him the center of every family gathering for as long as Olivia could remember. "No problem at all," he replied, putting his arm around Olivia's shoulders in what appeared to be an affectionate gesture, but felt like a claim of ownership. Olivia was a huge help. She's got great instincts for this kind of outdoor problem-solving. The generator just needed a quick reset, and we're all set for the rest of the evening. Olivia forced a smile and nodded, unable to find her voice but terrified that her silence would seem suspicious to her family. The rest of Sunday evening passed in a haze of forced normalcy. Olivia sat with her family, participated in their card games, and even managed to laugh at her grandfather's terrible jokes. But inside, she felt like she was watching everything from a great distance, as if she was floating outside her own body and observing someone else living her life. Every time Uncle Ryan spoke, every time he looked at her, every time someone praised him for solving the power problem, Olivia felt the weight of their shared secret pressing down on her chest. When it came time for everyone to go to bed, Uncle Ryan made sure to hug each family member goodnight, maintaining the loving uncle persona that had fooled everyone for so many years. When he hugged Olivia, he whispered in her ear so quietly that only she could hear, "Sweet dreams, sweetheart. I'm so glad we had our special time together tonight." The words made Olivia's skin crawl, but she managed to maintain her composure until she reached the bedroom she was sharing with her teenage cousin. Sleep was impossible. Olivia lay in the darkness, listening to her cousin's peaceful breathing and replaying the events in the clearing over and over in her mind. She kept thinking about how Uncle Ryan had planned the whole thing, using the storm as an excuse, creating a reason for them to be alone together, taking her far enough from the cabin that no one could have heard her if she had screamed. The realization that this hadn't been a spontaneous moment, but a calculated assault, made everything feel even more horrible. Monday morning brought the end of the family retreat, with everyone packing up their belongings and preparing for the drive back to their respective homes. Uncle Ryan was his usual cheerful, helpful self, making sure everyone had everything they needed and organizing group photos to commemorate what he kept calling an absolutely perfect family weekend. Olivia participated in the photos and the farewell conversations, but she felt like she was acting in a play where everyone else had the script except her. As the cars pulled away from the Whispering Pines mountain retreat, Uncle Ryan made sure to give Olivia an extra long hug goodbye. "This weekend was so special," he told her, his voice loud enough for her parents to hear, but his meaning clear only to her. "I hope we can do this again soon. Maybe just the two of us next time." The suggestion made Olivia's stomach turn, but she nodded and smiled because she didn't know what else to do. Returning to the University of Colorado campus after the mountain cabin weekend should have been a relief for Olivia, but instead, it felt like stepping into a world where she no longer belonged. Her dorm room, her classes, her friends, everything felt foreign and overwhelming in ways she couldn't explain to anyone. She had left for the family retreat as a confident, happy college sophomore, but she returned as someone carrying a terrible secret that was already beginning to poison every aspect of her life. The first few days back at school were the hardest. Olivia found herself unable to concentrate during lectures, staring out windows and reliving the assault in the mountain clearing over and over again. Her professors noticed her distraction, but attributed it to post-vacation adjustment difficulties. Her roommate asked if she was feeling sick because she looked pale and exhausted. Her friends wanted to hear all about the family cabin trip, but Olivia couldn't find words to describe what had happened without revealing the truth she was desperate to hide. Sleep became elusive and unreliable. Every time Olivia closed her eyes, she was back in that dark clearing with Uncle Ryan, feeling trapped and violated and utterly alone. She would wake up in cold sweats, sometimes crying out loud enough to wake her roommate, who was growing increasingly concerned about Olivia's sudden change in behavior. "Are you sure you're okay?" her roommate Sarah asked repeatedly. "You haven't seemed like yourself since you got back from Colorado." Olivia's academic performance began to suffer almost immediately. She missed classes, failed to turn in assignments, and performed poorly on exams she would normally have passed easily. Her favorite professor, Dr. Martinez, asked her to stay after environmental science class one afternoon to discuss her declining grades. "This isn't like you, Olivia," she said with genuine concern. "You're one of my strongest students, but something seems to have changed. Is everything all right at home? Are you dealing with family stress?" The irony of Dr. Martinez's question about family stress was almost too much for Olivia to bear. How could she explain that her family was indeed the source of her stress, but not in any way that anyone would understand or believe? How could she tell her professor that the uncle everyone loved and admired had assaulted her during what was supposed to be a loving family gathering? The words simply wouldn't come, and Olivia found herself making vague excuses about being tired and overwhelmed by coursework. Uncle Ryan's presence in her life didn't end with the mountain cabin assault. If anything, his contact with Olivia increased in the weeks following their return from the retreat. He began calling her regularly, ostensibly to check on her college experience and offer continued support and encouragement. But every conversation contained subtle reminders of their special relationship and veiled threats about the consequences of speaking up. "I've been thinking about our time together in the mountains," Uncle Ryan would say during these phone calls, his voice taking on the possessive tone that now made Olivia's skin crawl. "It was so meaningful to finally have some one-on-one time with you. I hope you're reflecting on how special our relationship is and how important it is to keep our private moments private." The calls usually ended with promises of future visits and suggestions that they spend more time alone together. Olivia began avoiding Uncle Ryan's calls, but her parents noticed and mentioned it during their weekly check-ins. "Uncle Ryan is worried about you," Jennifer told her daughter. "He says you're not returning his calls, and he's concerned that you might be struggling with something at school. You know how much he cares about you, honey. Maybe you should give him a call and let him know you're okay." The pressure from her parents to maintain the relationship with Uncle Ryan felt like another layer of entrapment. The isolation was overwhelming. Olivia felt like she was carrying a toxic secret that was slowly poisoning everything she touched. She couldn't focus on her studies, couldn't enjoy time with her friends, couldn't even have normal conversations with her parents without feeling the weight of what she was hiding. The vibrant, confident young woman who had left for the mountain retreat seemed to have disappeared completely, replaced by someone who was anxious, withdrawn, and deeply depressed. As October turned into November, Olivia's mental health continued to deteriorate. She was having panic attacks during random moments, in the middle of chemistry lab, while walking across campus, even while eating dinner in the cafeteria. The attacks would come without warning, leaving her gasping for breath and feeling like the world was spinning out of control. Her friends and roommate were increasingly worried, but Olivia couldn't explain what was happening to her without revealing the truth about Uncle Ryan. 3 weeks after the mountain cabin assault, Olivia reached a breaking point that would change the trajectory of her healing journey. She was sitting in her dorm room on a Wednesday evening, supposedly working on a research paper for her wildlife conservation class, when her phone rang with a call from Uncle Ryan. For the first time since the assault, instead of letting the call go to voicemail, Olivia answered. "There's my favorite niece." Uncle Ryan's voice came through the phone with that familiar blend of warmth and possessiveness that now made Olivia feel sick. "I've been worried about you, sweetheart. Your parents tell me you've been struggling with school lately. I think you need another getaway. Maybe just the two of us this time. I've been looking at some beautiful cabins in the mountains where we could spend a weekend together, just like we talked about." The suggestion of another isolated trip with Uncle Ryan triggered something in Olivia that she hadn't felt since the assault. Anger. Pure, white-hot rage at the man who had violated her and was now acting as if she should be grateful for the experience. For the first time in 3 weeks, Olivia found her voice. "No," she said, her voice stronger than she had expected. "I don't want to go anywhere with you. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want you to call me anymore." Uncle Ryan's response revealed the manipulative predator beneath his caring uncle facade. "Now, Olivia, don't be dramatic," he said, his voice taking on a warning tone. "We both know how much your family depends on me. Your parents value my advice. Your grandparents love having me organize these family gatherings. Your cousins look up to me. You wouldn't want to say or do anything that might upset that family harmony, would you? Smart girls know when to keep family matters private." But something had shifted in Olivia during that phone call. Uncle Ryan's threats, which had terrified her for weeks, now sounded like the desperate manipulations of someone who was afraid of losing control. She realized that her silence wasn't protecting her family. It was protecting him, and she was tired of being the one who carried the burden of his crimes while he continued to play the role of the beloved uncle. After hanging up on Uncle Ryan, something she had never imagined herself capable of doing, Olivia sat in her dorm room and made a decision that would change everything. She was going to tell someone what had happened in that mountain clearing. She couldn't carry this secret alone anymore, and she couldn't continue to let Uncle Ryan's threats control her life. The next morning, Olivia made an appointment with a counselor at the university's Student Health Center. Dr. Patricia Kim specialized in trauma counseling and had extensive experience working with survivors of sexual assault. When Olivia walked into her office on Thursday afternoon, she wasn't sure she would be able to find the words to describe what had happened to her. But Dr. Kim's gentle, non-judgmental approach made it possible for Olivia to begin sharing her story. "What happened to you was not your fault," Dr. Kim told Olivia after hearing about the assault and the weeks of silence that followed. "Your uncle used his position of trust and authority to manipulate you into a vulnerable situation, and then he used fear and guilt to keep you silent. That's a classic pattern of predatory behavior, and none of it reflects anything about your character or your choices." For the first time since the mountain cabin assault, Olivia felt like someone truly understood what she had experienced. Dr. Kim helped her realize that Uncle Ryan's threats about destroying the family were empty manipulations designed to maintain his control over her. "Predators rely on their victims' love for their families to keep them silent," Dr. Kim explained. "But the truth is that your family deserves to know who this man really is, and they deserve the chance to protect you and support you." Over the next several weeks, Dr. Kim worked with Olivia to develop a plan for sharing her story with her family and, if Olivia chose, with law enforcement. The process was slow and sometimes painful, But for the first time in months, Olivia began to feel like she was reclaiming some control over her own life. If you've made it this far, drop "still here" in the comments, because Olivia's next step shows the courage it takes to reclaim your voice. Thanksgiving break arrived 6 weeks after the mountain cabin assault, and Olivia dreaded returning home to Denver more than she had ever dreaded anything in her life. The thought of sitting around the dinner table with Uncle Ryan, pretending everything was normal while carrying the weight of what he had done to her, felt impossible. But Dr. Kim had helped her develop a plan that would allow her to take back control of the situation. With her counselor's support and guidance, Olivia had decided to tell her parents about Uncle Ryan's assault before the family gathering. She called her mother on the Tuesday before Thanksgiving and asked if she could come home a day early to have a private conversation with both parents. "There's something important I need to discuss with you and Dad," she told Jennifer, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Jennifer and Mark were waiting in the living room when Olivia arrived home on Wednesday evening. They could see that their daughter was nervous and upset about something, but they had no idea that the conversation they were about to have would fundamentally change their understanding of their family and their relationship with Mark's brother. "There's something I need to tell you about the cabin trip," Olivia began, her voice stronger than she had expected thanks to weeks of practice with Dr. Kim. "Something that Uncle Ryan did to me. Something that I've been carrying alone for almost 2 months. The words came slowly at first, but as Olivia began to describe what had happened in the dark clearing behind the cabin, they flowed with increasing confidence and clarity. Her parents' reactions were everything Dr. Kim had prepared her for and more. Jennifer's immediate response was protective anger, fury at the man who had violated her daughter, and guilt over not recognizing the signs of Olivia's trauma. Mark's reaction was more complex. Shock at learning this truth about his brother, rage at the violation of his daughter, and deep sadness over the weeks of pain Olivia had endured alone. "Why didn't you tell us immediately?" Jennifer asked, tears streaming down her face. "Why did you carry this alone for so long?" Olivia was ready for this question and had practiced her response with Dr. Kim. She explained about Uncle Ryan's threats, about her fear that speaking up would destroy the family, and about the shame and self-blame that had kept her silent. Mark's response was immediate and decisive. "Ryan is not welcome in this house anymore," he said, his voice shaking with emotion. "He will not be at Thanksgiving dinner tomorrow, and he will never again have access to you or anyone else in this family. What he did to you was a crime, and there will be consequences." Olivia felt a wave of relief wash over her at her father's words. For the first time in weeks, she felt truly protected and supported. The conversation continued deep into the night, as Olivia shared more details about Uncle Ryan's predatory behavior, his phone calls after the assault, and his attempts to isolate her for future abuse. Her parents were horrified to learn about the ongoing manipulation and threats their daughter had been enduring, while they remained completely unaware of her suffering. "We're going to get you justice," Jennifer promised her daughter as they finally prepared to go to bed, "and we're going to make sure that Ryan never has the opportunity to hurt you or anyone else again." The support from her parents was overwhelming and healing in ways Olivia hadn't expected. She had spent weeks terrified that telling the truth would destroy her family, but instead, it was bringing them closer together and making them stronger. The confrontation with Uncle Ryan took place on Thanksgiving morning, when he arrived at the Richardson house expecting to join the family celebration as he had for decades. Mark met him at the front door, his face grim and his voice steady despite the anger burning in his chest. "We need to talk, Ryan. Outside. Now." Uncle Ryan's initial reaction was confusion and mild irritation at being asked to step outside before being welcomed into the house. But as Mark began to speak, describing what Olivia had shared with them the night before, Ryan's expression shifted from confusion to calculation to desperate denial. "That's ridiculous," Uncle Ryan said, his voice taking on the smooth, persuasive tone he had perfected over years of manipulation. "Olivia is obviously having some kind of psychological break. College stress, maybe experimenting with drugs. These kinds of delusions are more common than you might think. I'm concerned about her mental health, and I think she needs professional help." But Mark was prepared for his brother's denials and gaslighting. Dr. Kim had warned Olivia and her parents that predators typically respond to exposure with a predictable pattern of denial, minimization, and victim blaming. "Olivia has been working with a professional counselor for weeks," Mark told his brother. "She's not delusional, she's not lying, and she's not having a breakdown. She's a trauma survivor who finally found the courage to speak her truth." The conversation escalated as Uncle Ryan realized that his usual manipulation tactics weren't working on his brother. He tried appealing to family loyalty, reminding Mark of all the ways he had contributed to family gatherings and supported family members over the years. He suggested that Olivia was seeking attention or trying to create drama for reasons only she understood. "Get off my property," Mark finally said, his voice deadly quiet. "Don't ever come back. Don't call, don't text, don't try to contact any member of this family ever again. If you attempt to contact Olivia or any of us, we will call the police immediately." Uncle Ryan's final words revealed the narcissistic rage that had been hidden beneath his charming facade for so many years. "You're making a huge mistake," he told Mark as he walked back toward his car. "When Olivia admits she made this up, when your family realizes what you've thrown away based on the lies of a confused college girl, don't expect me to forgive you. You'll regret choosing her word over mine." The threat was clear, but it no longer had the power to intimidate a family that had finally seen Uncle Ryan for who he really was. Inside the house, Olivia watched the confrontation through the living room window, feeling a mixture of relief and terror as she saw Uncle Ryan's calm mask finally slip completely. This was the man she had known was lurking beneath the surface. Angry, entitled, and dangerous when he didn't get his way. But for the first time since the assault, she wasn't facing him alone. The weeks following the confrontation with Uncle Ryan were a mixture of healing and continued challenges for Olivia and her family. With her parents' full support, Olivia decided to file a police report about the assault, working with Detective Lisa Reeves, who specialized in sexual assault cases and had extensive experience with delayed reporting situations. "The fact that you waited to report doesn't diminish the validity of your experience," Detective Reeves told Olivia during their first meeting. "We understand the complex psychological factors that prevent survivors from immediately coming forward, especially when the perpetrator is a trusted family member." The investigation that followed was thorough and professional, though challenging due to the remote location of the assault and the time that had passed. The legal process was long and emotionally draining, but Olivia found strength in finally taking action against the man who had violated her. During the investigation, another victim came forward,